So we talked a little bit about hemp. Now we're going to talk about cannabis and medical marijuana. And just like hemp, because it's cannabis, it originated in China several thousand years ago, and it made its way across the planet. Recently, they found a mummified body in the Gobi Desert, 2,700-year-old body that was buried with 2 pounds of cannabis. So that was amazing, you know. This must have been a very important person or a very lucky person. And, you know, but what were they using that for? Was he a shaman? Was he a doctor or a healer? That would be a good research area to look into. In the 1700s, they used hemp seed oil and cannabis root for a lot of different skin ailments. And in the 1830s, William O'Shaughnessy, an Irish doctor, was in India practicing medicine. And he noticed in India that they were using cannabis for all sorts of things, for spasms, for pain, for nausea. So he documented all these instances and took that back to England. And it became wildly successful. And by 1900, there were over 1,000 medicines that had cannabis in it. So it was amazing. It was very, very popular. But then starting around the turn of the century in 1900, the use of cannabis as a medicine started declining. And that would be another good research project. You know, why did it decline? There's a lot of different reasons. It could be, one, because it was hard to standardize the dosage of the medicine. Because in 1900, they didn't know what THC was. They didn't know what CBDs were. So it was very difficult to come up with a standardized dose. Also around that time, they had come up with different drugs like aspirin and opiates. So those were competing with cannabis. And around this time, the whole temperance movement started kicking into gear. So the whole alcohol temperance movement started gaining strength. And reefer madness, believe it or not, the first law against marijuana was made 100 years ago in California. So that would be 1913 or so. So it wasn't even in, 1937 was when the Marijuana Tax Act passed, but even in the 19-teens is when state laws against marijuana started popping up. So that whole reefer madness thing started going into effect in the early 1900s, and that probably had a big effect on why cannabis medicines started declining. Then you have the whole reefer madness thing in the 30s, and in the 40s, they actually removed cannabis from the pharmacopoeia. Pharmacopoeia is a book that has a listing of all the different drugs that are in use. They said, we're going to take it out of there, which is like, why? We want to put it back in. So if you want a project, help me put cannabis back in the pharmacopoeia.